This is Newsline. Good morning and welcome to Bandula Jayasekara, journalist and intrepid diplomat.
Thank you very much, Faraz. How come you have given in and just white?
Today
Where are the blues?
We start the week on a pure scale in deference to good governance. And we're also joined this morning by Nishanta Ranatunga, the former Secretary of Sri Lanka Cricket. Good morning, Nishanta.
Good morning, Faraz. Good morning, Bandula.
How are you today?
I'm well, thank you.
And how fares cricket? Why all this rush to join the cricket board again?
I have been working with the board for a long time, and if you look at the performance with regard to cricket, we have done well during that time. We have been runners-up in 2 international World Cups. We won a World Cup. We beat all the other countries. Cricket-wise, we have done well. Administratively, we have put policies and processes at the board. Financially, we have increased our finances by income by 600% during the last 3 to 4 years with the committee. So we feel that we should take it forward and develop the game, especially looking at school cricket as our main objective.
If you have increased your income by 600%, have you sent a check to the Treasury to settle the money for the Surya Stadium, for example?
Yeah, if I explain the process of starting the Surya Stadium, it was done through a cabinet decision by the Cabinet of Ministers.
Yeah.
At that time, we didn't have enough finances to develop a ground for the World Cup, but the government felt that after 3 decades of a war, it's good for the country's image to be taken to the world, and they only proposed that they decided to support our cause of building a ground. What we did as a cricket board is to get the cricketing structure right, the cricket playing area, but all the other expenses were done through the government organizations by the Cabinet of Ministers through a cabinet paper.
I see. So there was no liability to the cricket board.
We have brought that to the attention of the government at that time, and there was a process followed. I think that is still continuing. I'm not 100% sure since I'm not in the board now, but we will start that process once we assume duties at the board.
Why in Surya, in the middle of nowhere? Hardly any hotels, hardly any hospitals. How are you going to cope with 10 or 15,000 people capacity crowds?
There are few reasons why we wanted at Hambantota, Surya. 4 years back, before we took that decision, there were 2 previous board presidents have identified a location, and they have gone and even started the initial work in terms of developing a ground there. But at that time, the committee felt Hambantota was building a airport, and the development process for Hambantota was quite aggressive at that time, and it's in the dry zone, so we can play 9 to 10 months of cricket in Hambantota, and we felt we should support the cause of taking the game to villages through this process.
But why not Anuradhapura, Kurunegala? I mean, why not? Because I'm sad, but it's all went into one area.
No, Anuradhapura and Polonnaruwa, for example, at that time, the development process was not there. If you look at the airport coming in a city, that's something that will have a great advantage in developing cricket through foreigners coming and playing, the easy access to the country and things like that. When we built the R. Premadasa Stadium, a lot of people criticized it. But if not for the stadium, winning the 1996 World Cup would have been just a dream, because first time our players played under lights at Premadasa. So it's a long-term investment, and I feel it's
Nishant, before Faraz tells the viewers about the new employment opportunities offered, there are some hard questions for you. This is from a former Kandy cricketer. He's asking, how many trips have you made as General Secretary, and what is the per diem per day? He says you lived on that and only you go abroad. Your answers.
I think it's not. I don't think it's a question by a person who is aware, genuine viewer.
Yes.
And
but we thought we'll put it to you.
Myself, as a secretary of the board, has travelled, and all our travel were looked after by the ICC, and we don't spend money other than expenses that is been approved by the board for our day-to-day travel, internal travel, and our the lunch and dinner expenses, things like that. So there is a criteria that has been placed in by the board from the time that we took over, before the time that we took over. So that process has been followed.
And you have not been in breach of those?
Nothing has, I haven't breached anything of that sort.
I want to ask you about the cricket stadium in Suryavada. We hear what you say, that there was an accelerated and intensive development program in that area. But how much of that decision was political? How much was the fact that the Rajapaksas live not far from there?
I think they supported the process.
Yeah.
But there was no influence used for us to, or forced us to build the stadium, to be very honest.
Right.
But they supported our thinking. Their thinking was, the government's thinking was also to develop something there, and they had certain other things in mind, like the Commonwealth Games and things like that, which could be used for this purpose. So there were a lot of reasons behind developing a stadium in Hambantota.
So back to Bandula's question, why not in Kurunagala and Anuradhapura? But you do have a stadium in Dambulla. And
why not in Gampaha and Polonnaruwa, if this former president is from Gampaha? And
our intention was to give priority to Dambulla, but there were issues. During that time, if we were to build that stadium to ICC standards to play a World Cup, it would have taken 1 year's time. That is what happened at Premadasa Stadium. We couldn't play 1 year of full cricket. But during that time, we had the Asia Cup, we had the 12 one-day internationals, and all these games has to be played somewhere. So we used Dambulla Stadium for more than 10 international cricket matches during that period. But if we had started playing there, then our income would have gone, our lost, because we don't have a place with lights to play international cricket. Our agreements with our broadcaster very clearly says all the matches should be played under lights. So we got the Asia Cup to play in Sri Lanka, and the revenue and the exposure we got as a country was tremendous.
Can you tell me, as members of the Ex-Court, do they get paid?
No, we don't get paid. We are all honorary members.
Right.
And we don't get paid.
What line of business are you in, Shanta?
I'm into distribution. I distribute Nestle's products in Colombo and Gampa. I distribute.
So why do you give up so much of your time to come to the cricket board? You're not paid. Is there a direct link or maybe an indirect link between your business and your desire to come to the cricket board?
Not at all. But if you look at Ranatungas as a family, we have been brought into this position by the game of cricket. So we feel that we should give something back to the game and to the people who are like us. Because there was a time we lost everything. We lost our house, we lost everything. But still, the game of cricket and our parents' guidance put us in the right process to develop as individuals. So we thought we should give something back. My parents would have spent 100,000 rupees for my total education. The government looked after our education. This game of cricket can do wonders for the country, and we feel we should support that process, and we will go out of the way to the game, to the players and the talented cricketers who could get into the position which Arjuna got in, which Mahela got in, which Sangha got in, which Murali got in. So it's our thinking that we should support this global game.
Why are you so angry with Mahela and Kumar, and then why are they showing their disappointment?
Who told you I am angry with any of the players?
No, I mean, this is what our sources divulge. Why is there's a friction?
No, to be very honest, I am an administrator who always do the right thing. There was a time where we had to talk to players and get into an agreement with regard to player payments. I don't want to go in detail. I don't like to talk about people's salaries. But the intention was to support the grassroots level club cricket, district cricket, school cricket by saving some money. So that process took place, and Mr. Upali Dharmadasa gave the leadership to that. We understood we were paying too much compared to other countries to our players. So we had a process. It's not only Mahela and Sangha who was disappointed. Even any other player who was in that level, they were a little unhappy. But we as administrators, our job is not to make cricketers happy only. We should explain
us happy, the spectators.
No, not only the spectators. The game of cricket is run by the stakeholders. Yeah. If you look at school cricket, from age 9 to 19, cricketer is developed by the school system. But who is funding them? Does government? Any government gives money to play cricket? any sport? No, they don't have the resources. So we thought we should save some money and support the school system, the club system that brought us to this level of international cricket. Then long term we should develop district cricket centers and develop cricket in outstations. So our plan was to try and put a percentage of our revenue to all the stakeholders.
So how much of cuts did you make administratively as opposed to cutting the players' salaries down?
We have never made any cuts in terms of making money individually or as a board for the staff or to the administrators there or to the board members.
You haven't cut it?
We haven't. But we raised revenue so that the revenue could be, I'll give you a good example. Before we took over, the cricket team sponsorship was only 350 million for 4 years. After we took over with the support of other members like Asanga Seneviratna Upali, Iranta and them, we managed to increase it up to 1.2 billion. How we did that was, we sold our local cricket rights to Dialogue for 600 million for 3 years and we sold T-Board international rights for another 600 million where we got 1.2 billion. So administratively and professionally we had done our best to the game of cricket.
But then you tried to reduce the salaries or the contract payments to the players.
It's not a matter of reducing players' contract fee. Contract fee was paid, but there was a lump sum that players used to get from ICC World Cups. That was a huge amount. For example, we get about $17 million from a World Cup. Paying 25% of that is something that was huge. So we negotiated for a 10% cut on that, 15% cut, and to pay them 10%, which amounts to a substantial amount of money in terms of developing the game.
And would they be on par with an Australian cricketer or an English cricketer?
There are two things. With the income that we get as a board, we should only pay 25 to 30%. Any other country doesn't go over 25 to 30% in terms of paying revenue to their players. But we have been paying close to 55% to 70%
To our players?
to our players. That was done by so-called administrators who couldn't say no to players, number one. Number two, they didn't know what the revenue we get and how much we are spending. So after we got into office, we did our research and we put the process in place.
And another questions come through.
You know, in fact, I asked this during the Sinhalese program also, but for the betterment of the English viewers, about the COPE report where Diu Gunasekar said about financial abuses, and then he also said about your alleged link between SLC and certain TV stations, and also the bankrupt SLC sought a massive overdraft. What have you got to say, Nishant?
The overdraft was obtained because you get the money after the World Cup. So by last year, end of last year, if we were in office, we were to pay all the overdrafts that we took. Any country has to, because cricket is a seasonal income generator. When we play India, we get revenue. When we play a World Cup, we get revenue. But any other country, when we play, the revenue that we get from playing India doesn't come to our coffers. So you need to plan it in a way that you need to obtain loans. Without obtaining loans, cricket in Sri Lanka cannot be done. We have few disadvantages. For example, we can't market cricket through liquor and cigarettes, etc. In Australia, you can do that. In Australia, per capita is $700 per person. In Sri Lanka, it's 150, 200. So our people don't go and spend $50 to watch a test match. But in Australia, they go and watch a test match paying $50, and the income for the board is quite huge. But in Sri Lanka, our viewership is only 20 million. But in India, they have 2 billion. The revenue that they get is about 700% more than Sri Lankan cricket gets. So we need to put all this in we need to understand that model.
But have you answered the COPE report? I mean, COPE has highlighted this corruption.
COPE has said there was conflict of interest, which I myself as a secretary, I didn't take part in that decision, and I minuted that in the executive committee. I was not part of that decision. But with that agreement, Sri Lanka cricket made more money. And it's nothing to do with corruption.
Are you qualified to run for President of Sri Lanka Cricket?
100%. I'm fully qualified. I have served the board for 2 years.
Okay.
That's one criteria. I'm not involved in gambling. I'm not involved in media. I'm not involved
But you were involved in the media. you were the CEO of CSN.
I was a CEO at that time,
Yeah.
and I
so
resigned.
does that preclude you now?
No, not.
So previously it doesn't.
No, even when this law was brought in 2013, only the media reporters could not get into the board. I was not a. I was a chief executive of the board, not a writer or a
administrator. You were administrator.
Yeah. So it didn't. Even now, CEO is not precluded. Even only the owners and the people who write.
Right.
So but still, I thought
Bandulu and I won't be able to.
You won't be able.
And anyway, we
don't have 2 years.
Yeah.
Right.
It's only Ranatungas, Dharmadasas and...
Now that's it. Now there you are. That's the main question. There is Yapalana, and Yapalana has encroached upon all our lives, excepting, it appears to me, at Maitland Crescent. Why is it that we have Sumitipala, Dharmadasa, Ranatunga, Dharmadasa, and any combination, but it's only those names? Why?
There were reasons for that. I think I explained this to Bandula as well. If you look at certain cricketers, like you take Siddharth Vettamani, Roshan Mahanama, guys who have played for the country, they don't want to get into this fight.
Just a small, but for us, the Vettamunis and Gunasekaras come always into the interim committee. That's also interesting.
I think they are good administrators and they are good cricketers. Them coming into the
always in the
interim committee is not something wrong. But what I feel is they don't want to. Now all these complaints about us, these are all made up stories by certain individuals and groups where they don't want us to be in the system. If they come, they'll have to face the same music. But I know as individuals, they don't want to go through this mess. And on top of that, if you want to serve the game of cricket, you need to be a member. Now I run a club. I am the president of Coles Cricket Club. Likewise, you need to have a relationship and an involvement with the board to get into this situation.
How many votes? There's a total of 147 votes, as you told me before the show. How many will you get?
I have got 96 people backing me fully, but I know I am very confident I'll end up getting close to 106.
And we'll ask Tilanga tomorrow.
We'll ask Mr. Sumitipala as well.
Please do.
Would you agree, because it's always been a bone of contention, would you agree that the Dambulla Stadium was a good decision?
I think the process of taking the game to outstations is a good thing.
Yeah.
But the process that they followed in terms of developing the place was not the right thing. The contracts were done not with the right processes. You tell, okay, you as a stakeholder, you Sujiva Godaliya, you do this agreement, you Godfrey, you this. You can't do contracts like that. You need to go for an open bid and give people to do things.
We'll join you right back about open bids and transparency after this short break. Do stay tuned. Welcome back to Newsline and a jolly good morning to you with Bandula Jayasekara and Nishanta Ranatunga. So tell us about open bids and transparency. Why is this? Why was Dambulla Stadium not such a good idea, or was it a good idea?
No, it was a good idea. Developing cricket and playing cricket, developing a ground in Dambulla is a good idea. We don't argue on that, and it's a good location. The attraction is there for Dambulla. That's a good decision. But the way the construction was done, if you look at the amount of money you spend 15 years back to develop that ground versus what we have spent in developing the grounds for the World Cup, with the facilities and the work done, you can see how much of additional costs the board has incurred.
Now see, Tilanga is considered a good administrator and a doer. So why don't, this is Yahapalana time, why don't you all get together like UNP and SLFP and work for the betterment of cricket?
I'm sure we can get close to people who are qualified. There is no problem in getting close to people who are good administrators. But you need to also respect the law and the guidelines given in the sports law. For example, we all know if people are getting involved in or directly or indirectly, if they are involved in betting, you can't. Then if you are involved in media, you can't. Then if you are involved in sports goods, you can't. And on top of that, there is an inquiry pending at ICC for Tilanga. So how can we go and join hands under Yahapalanaya with a person who is not qualified to do so? And if you go to a certain bookies today, you can see Sri Lanka team matches are being betted at those places. And in time to come, if it will go to our club cricket, it will go to our school cricket, where are we going to put the end to this? Administrators should not get involved in betting if you want to get
Pardon my ignorance, he is the deputy speaker of Sri Lanka. If he can be the deputy speaker, why can't he? Is like ICC, completely above board.
I don't think there's any relevance with
because that's
the deputy speaker's position. But one aspect that I can look at is with Yahapalanaya, more powers were given to the speaker, and once the speaker is not there, deputy speaker gets set. And he got to be a person who is independent. You can't hold public office and go and get into fights as an independent person.
Arjuna is a minister.
Minister is a different thing. Minister and the speaker are two different aspects. The speaker, with the 2015 amendments to the constitution, has to be an independent person who don't get into controversies and even in terms of sides.
Do you think that do you think that Mr. Sumatipale's rights in terms of natural justice have been deprived because he is precluded by this ICC rule, and he has divested himself, he says, from these various interests? Do you think that it's a bit unfair on him?
No, he's the only person who can get out of that problem. He got to go and face the inquiry. Once ICC clears him, then there won't be any issue. But why doesn't he go and face this inquiry? You think our stakeholders are so uneducated or foolish to go and vote for a person who can't go and represent us in International Cricket Council? Once somebody is elected as a president of ICC of Sri Lanka Cricket, is automatically the member of ICC board. So if he can't go and sit there, why should we go and support him?
Can you send his proxy?
Of course you can. Anybody can be sent, but the issue is, will he have any influence in running the board? If you go for example, if the board president wants to try and have cricket betting in Sri Lanka at school or club cricket, the board will support him. So if he is a person who is involved in that, can he be entitled? That is up to the viewers. I think we should not fool people. The people should not fool the governments. We should try and say, okay, we are involved, and go and face the inquiry. Once you face the inquiry, if you are cleared, we are very happy to support him. But till he is cleared, I don't think it's right as individuals to go and support him.
So will he win?
How can he win when we have 96 votes out of 147, which we will increase day by day? I'm sure there is no question of us winning.
How is the vote buying going on? A lot of votes have been bought, a lot of money is thrown.
I don't think we should ridicule our
I'm saying
members.
It's happened in Sri Lanka, so that's what I'm asking.
There are people who get close to these things and try and get short-term advantage. But if you look at the majority, people are very honest and they try to do something. You take School Cricket Association for example. A teacher who gets 25 to 30,000 of a salary, he spends a lot of time in developing school cricket. If he goes and gives tuition, he can make 2 to 4,000 rupees per hour. But here they get only 500 rupees for 3 months, even as a school master in charge of cricket. So we need to look at all these aspects and respect the stakeholders for their contribution. You shouldn't think of stakeholders as voter base. You should think of the stakeholders as people who help the game and the country to develop cricket.
Can we say this, that most of the people who've headed Sri Lanka cricket are, in Sri Lankan terms, billionaires? Are you a billionaire?
I wish I am, but I am not a billionaire. But
Perhaps
Will you declare assets? Will you and Lanka? Is it is a requirement for this election? Is
it's
it
not a requirement, but I have declared my assets. I am a guy who pays my taxes on time, and I have got certificates from the government for paying taxes on time. I am a small businessman, but I can administrate things. I'll give you a good example. When I took over my club, Coach Cricket Club, we had 4.5 million of debts, but we had a millionaire running that club. After 3 years,
Who was that millionaire?
I don't want to go into names, but we have developed that club today to a great level, and we have 8 million in our reserves, in our deposits. That is because we didn't give this ground free of charge for votes. It's not my club, it's my members' club, and I need to look after their interests. Today we have air-conditioned bar. Our clubhouse has been refurbished, toilets were done, the cricket playing areas were done. So as an administrator, you need to get the support of your committee to run your club or your cricket. So I am capable of that. I am sure we will do a great job for Sri Lanka in time to come.
That's a strategy to have an air-conditioned bar.
Oh,
Get them to
absolutely.
more drink.
Indeed.
No, that gives you funds to play your cricket. The members come and patronize the club, and that revenue helps us to play the game. Otherwise, we don't get any revenue to run a club.
Are you, in your sort of manifesto, if you like, your undertaking to the stakeholders, if you are to become president, how much of emphasis is there on developing the game at, say, at school level?
Priority is school level. As I explained to you all, from age 9 to 19, a cricketer is developed by the school system, but the facilities and the funding they get is nil. So we as a board should allocate a percentage of our revenue to School Cricket Association to develop the game. Otherwise, what will happen is, if you go to a school, few parents who has got money will help the school cricket, and ultimately the coaches and the masters in charge will have to support the parents who contribute money, and the talented players will not be in the system. The wealthy people's children will be playing the game. So it's a big risk for the game of cricket. So we need to put a substantial amount of revenue that we get to the stakeholder who gives us the biggest advantage in terms of developing a cricketer.
I'm getting a call from a viewer who's asking me to ask you how much salary does the Secretary of Sri Lanka Cricket get a salary?
We don't get any salaries, as I
So the
explained.
Exco doesn't get any?
Yeah, we are all honorary
Any
members.
side income?
Nothing. We don't get any income. We only get a cup of tea when we go for a meeting.
You can't get a commission on some sort of deal.
I don't think people
can't.
of that caliber, we don't get commissions. We
Right.
go by with a very transparent procedure in terms of providing facilities.
So what are the benefits you get? What benefit
It's a satisfaction and happiness in this game developing.
in being part of the noble game?
Exactly.
Maybe fellas, you should try to be noble.
Now, can you tell me, Mr. Upali Dharmadasa has been part of the cricket establishment for a long time. And we see him, we saw him on television behind Arjuna, who they're obviously good friends. But what role will he play if you were to be elected?
He is somebody who really fought for the rights of the stakeholders. When the interim committee was appointed, he took the fight with the ministry to explain things and get it right. Certain presidents who were holding office at that time, they all went blank, and they didn't support the process of asking for elections. And he's somebody we all respect because he's not a rogue, and we all supported him. His thinking in terms of cricket is quite good, and in fact we invited him to be the president, but what he said was, I have done this for so many years, and I would like youngsters to take the process forward. I will back you all. You take this forward and do the right thing for the game.
Upali considers you young and Upali is
Exactly.
And Upali is mature now.
old. Mature, old.
Not old. So you are confident of victory, you're confident of being elected with a minimum of 96 votes on your side, and can we look forward to a glorious, how long is this post for?
The term is 2 years.
2 years. So can we look forward to an exciting 2 years?
Definitely, the process will come every 2 years, but my thinking is to serve the presidency for 2 years and have a process for others to come forward and take a policy that we implement during the next 2 years forward, which will help the stakeholders, the schools, and the game will grow with that process.
For us, it will be very interesting when Tilanga has to
Yes,
speak to us tomorrow.
ladies and gentlemen of the Republic, we want to put you on notice that tomorrow we will have Mr. Tilanga Sumitipala, who is also vying to be President of Sri Lanka Cricket, and he will share his vision with us tomorrow. So on that note, Nishanta, we wish you very well, and we do hope that when you do win, that you will actually come back on our show.
Yeah,
Because people tend not, once they get elected, they don't answer our phones.
if you ask the media, I have been always answering phone calls from media and giving them whatever the information available with us. And I think that's our responsibility as stakeholders and people who run the board. And I give you a commitment, whether it's media or stakeholders or any public who wants to know something, we are open. Although we can't answer all the calls, but we will bring things to the notice of the public through our media division.
Absolutely excellent. Thank you very much for being on our show today, Nishanta.
Thank you for the
And
invitation.
thank you,
Thank you,
Bangla.
Bharat.
On that note, we wish you a very good morning. Take care and God bless you.